Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Today's lesson will be about the stock market crash of 1929. Based on the Keynesian model, we will look at why the stock market plunged the world into the Great Depression.
Come to Papa. Actually, ladies and gentlemen, I don't think we'll do that. I think we'll just see how the economy works, how the economy is structured, how it goes up, how it goes down, and how it's affecting your world today. And of course, like I always like to, use our friend Tim Hortons. Now, how does the economy work? Why does sometimes it seems like the economy is going really, really well, and other times not so good? Well, there are 4 stages. There is prosperity, which we were in like 3 weeks ago, recession, trough or depression, and then recovery. The thing is, how does it all happen? How is it all interconnected? Well, think about this. Let's say, I don't know, I lose my job, things aren't going so well, and I don't have money for this. Think of that. Every day I drive to Waterdown District High School and I buy myself a large double-double. The thing is, if I don't buy that double-double, how many industries are affected by me not shopping there? If you guessed 7, you'd be right. The lid, the plastic industry, the paper industry, the printing industry on the label, the dairy industry for the cream, the sugar industry, the coffee industry, and of course Tim Hortons itself. 7 industries. 7, exactly. Now think about homes. If people stop buying homes, how many industries are affected? Cars. That's thousands of industries, ladies and gentlemen. So we're going to look at the causes of the Great Depression and also what's going on today. In October of 1929, the stock market crashed. This plunged America and the world into what we know now as the Great Depression. It was awful. 25% of North American workforce was out of work. It has never been as high as during the Great Depression. Now, we talked about stock market crash. What are stocks? What are shares? Well, let's just think of it this way. Let's say I made a company, I don't know, of my favorite thing, lunchboxes. That's right, I love lunchboxes. And of course, this is my amazing, wonderful Scooby-Doo lunchbox. Now, if I needed to make a company, the first thing I need is money. I need people to invest in my lunchbox company. And those investments, those pieces of the company are called shares. And those dudes with the money and dudettes, they're called shareholders. They invest in my company and I'm able to build all these wonderful lunchboxes. Now, a share is a monetary figure that people buy. You can buy 10 shares, you can buy 100 shares, whatever. And the more shares you have in the company, well, the more control you have over that company. Now, if the company does very well, you get a return on your investment. In fact, if the value of the share goes up, then you actually get money. You could sell that share and double and triple your money. Think of this. If you invested in Apple computers in 1978, how much was the shares then? Today, they're over $200 a share. Think of that. If only we had a time machine. But we don't. So let's go back. Ladies and gentlemen, people bought shares in my lunchbox company, as they did in the 1920s and so many companies around North America. They invested and they got returns on their investment. Because for the most part, as you know from our class, the 1920s was a booming time. People were working, people were doing all sorts of fun things. They were buying and buying and buying. It was a consumer's market and people were producing. Everyone had to have the latest hat. Everyone had to have the latest Model T. Well, things started cooling down. And the problem is the economy wasn't as stable as people thought. People also were very greedy. They bought on credit. You see, they invested in shares in the company. And then they bought on credit the same shares even though they didn't have the money to back it up. So if those shares started coming down in value, they didn't have money to back up their original investment and they became broke. Also, Canada especially did not diversify. It had a few great products, it had a few great industries, but it didn't have many industries. Look at my lunchbox company. It only makes lunchboxes. As beautiful as this is, it only makes lunchbox. Problem is, what happens if people don't like lunchboxes? Well, I go out of business. We did not diversify. And every great company, including the mighty Tim Hortons, understands that. You see, if Tim Hortons just sell donuts and coffee, and the market for donuts and coffee went down, well, Tim Hortons wouldn't be doing so well. So it now has bagels, it has soup, it has chili, it has breakfast sandwiches. I'm making myself hungry. Also, Canada relied so heavily on the United States. So when the United States economy went down, we followed as well. It's a very complex thing, but all I know is one of the worst times in the history of Canada and the history of the world. It will also give rise across the ocean to dictatorships. You see, when the economy is awful, people turn to extremes. And there is a young Adolf Hitler who was just waiting to take power. The Depression, well, it lasted about 10 years, from 1929 to 1939. And as we will see in the coming days and after your readings, it was a devastating time. It was awful. However, those forces that drove the Depression, well, no one really saw it coming. Today, things are a little different. Because of the coronavirus, our government and the governments around the world have had to shut down businesses. Now we are in a forced recession and everyone accepts that. Everyone understands it has to happen. But it's a different set of circumstances than the 1929 crash. And hopefully, I don't think so, it'll be as devastating. They do believe, some people say, that the unemployment rate, that is, people who are out of work, could reach 15%. But no one knows for sure. The good news is, it's temporary. In 1929, no one knew how long it would last. It would take World War II to bring people out of the Depression fully. But they are pretty sure that it's a matter of months. But still, some experts say it'll just be a huge boom back into great times and prosperity. Other people, because they believe people will be cautious about going out to restaurants and going out to places of enjoyment and entertainment, that it may take a few more months before the economy gets back to in better shape. Who knows? We'll just have to wait and see. But it is a very uncertain times, and the stock market is acting very volatile, just like it did in 1929. Thanks for listening today. Be well, be safe, don't panic, study hard, and I'll see you tomorrow.